Hi, I'm Caroline. Thank you for joining me for this movement snack session. Today I'd like to invite you to work with your feet. So socks and shoes are coming off today, if that feels okay for you. And we're coming to the front of a chair. So I'm seated, sitting bones are grounded, but I'm at the front of my chair. And to begin with, we're going to place one foot on one thigh. And if this feels too strong for the knee or the hip, maybe feel a little bit of tension or tightness, you can extend the opposite leg out and bring that leg a little lower, and that may support that a bit more. So finding a shape that you feel you can hold for a few minutes, a shape that you're feeling comfortable in. And I'm going to take my hand through the toes here. So I'm threading my fingers all the way through in between each toe. And I'm going to give my foot a bit of a squeeze. And if you've got rings on, this can be a little bit tough with rings. It's a bit sore, so just being mindful of rings here. And I'm squeezing the ball of my foot and gently letting go. So just waking up the ball of the foot here. It can be strong, it can be soft, whatever feels right for you. And then maybe you begin to spread the fingers out. So it's almost like the toes are being pulled apart and let go. So stretching the toes away from each other and gently let go. And once you've taken that 4 or 5 times, we're going to bring our thumbs to the soles of our feet, and I'm just going to press into my feet. But you may find different movement, different nurturing movement through the thumbs. Sometimes it can feel nice to sweep the thumbs through the feet. So just finding a method that works for you. And if you can, get into the sides of the feet, the sole of the foot, maybe even around the heels, around the ankles. Just beginning to wake up the foot. Release any tension or tightness. And the final movement is back to the toes. So you may like to try taking hold of two toes that are next to each other, and taking one in one direction and the other in the other direction. So a very gentle stretch, and then switching that, taking them in the opposite directions. And working up the feet through the toes, taking each toe that's next to each other in 2 opposite directions. And you can hold this for as long as you like. If it feels good to release the toes, it can be just a moment. And then working back the way. So working all the way back to the little toe. And once you've worked through that foot, the starting foot, we're going to bring our hands towards our knee and just finding again a little bit of length through the spine, sitting upright, and the foot can be hanging low. Maybe you bring the knee in towards the chest, beginning to point and flex that same foot we've just massaged. Pointing and flexing. Again, it can be a slow movement, it can be a slightly faster movement. Maybe you begin to notice as well, have sensation in the legs, the muscles switching on. You may feel the calf muscles, you may feel some movement around the knee, maybe even into the hip. So bringing our awareness to how when we move the foot, this is influencing the whole leg. And you may like to take some circles through the ankles as well. Slowly releasing that foot down. You may immediately notice a difference between 2 feet. For me, I notice the foot I've just massaged is a little bit flatter on the ground. It's softer. I actually notice this hip as well on that same side feels a little softer, feels a little bit lower. So we'll see if we can bring a little bit of balance between the feet and encourage the other foot onto the front of the opposite thigh. And it's going to feel very different. As we know, we're not symmetrical, and one side tends to be more habitual than the other. So one's going to be a little bit tighter, one hip, one leg may feel a little bit tighter. So finding again a supportive shape that you can hold for a few minutes. And then we'll begin with the threading of the fingers through the feet or in between the toes. And this is going to take a little bit of effort on this side. And I'm squeezing the ball of my foot here and gently letting go. So it can be a strong squeeze, waking up the ball of the foot. It can be a really gentle, soft touch. Whichever is most supportive for you. And then I'm going to begin to spread my fingers. And again, this can be quite a strong stretch, so just feeling into this, noticing how it is for you. If it feels a little too strong, maybe you stay with the squeezing of the ball of the foot. And when you're ready, gently releasing that. And we're coming to the massage of the foot. So I just use my thumbs, I'm just pressing into my foot here, into the side of the foot. Maybe you use sweeping movements through the thumb, more of a massage technique. Whatever supports you, whatever feels good. Taking some time to really get into each part of the sole of the foot, maybe even around the ankles as well. Then you're welcome to come back to the toes and take that sort of switching. So we're taking two toes next to each other and almost pulling them in opposite directions and changing the direction as well. So working up the foot. Once you get to one end, working your way back. And slowly releasing that leg, bringing the knee in towards the chest a little, or maybe you hold it a little lower, finding some length again through the spine, and maybe you begin to point and flex the foot. My ankle's clicking today, you may be picking that up on the microphone. And taking motion through the ankle if it feels good for you, maybe some circles in one direction and some circles in the other direction. And slowly releasing that foot all the way back down. And we're going to come into a gentle forward fold, so just a little bit of a stretch here through the hips. So maybe you take the feet out wide, maybe you keep the feet just a little bit wider than hip distance, so we know we can come into a forward fold. And there's a few options here. If the feet are just sort of a little wider than hip distance, you can fold forwards, leaving the heart, and maybe just rest and come to a resting position with the hands on the thighs. If you have high blood pressure, making sure you don't go too far so the head isn't lower than the heart. Maybe you'd prefer to get a little bit more of a hip stretch and you come to a forward fold with the feet grounded here, making sure the knees are tracking above the ankles. In both shapes, welcome to come further down if there are no underlying health conditions, and maybe the chin tucks. So finding the shape that best supports you, sitting bones are still grounded on the chair. Notice this is almost an inversion with our head a little lower than our heart. If you have come that little bit further. And when you're ready, slowly taking your time to come back to sitting upright, releasing the legs, and we'll come to standing. And we can use the chair for a couple more shapes, partly for the feet to help with balance, and we'll come into a twist. So to begin with, I'm going to take my right foot on the chair, my left leg, standing leg, toes are pointing forwards, and I've got this support here. So a little bit of a balance is going to be needed, but I've got the support of a chair. And you can always take hold of the chair if you're at the back of the chair or you're close to a wall. Hands coming to the hips, and then we're going to come onto our tiptoes. So it becomes a little bit of a stretch, a little bit of a strengthening exercise through the left leg, but also balance. So being mindful, if you feel a little bit wobbly on one side or there's a knee injury, just being mindful of that. Always listening to your body. If there's any pain or any strain, coming straight out of this movement, this shape. Breathing in to come up and breathing out to come down if it's helpful to use your breath. There's also option to bring the arms into this as well as we come onto the tiptoes, reaching up towards the sky, and as we come down onto the heel, allowing the arms to float back down towards the side. Creating movement here in the body that feels good. So it's a movement snack. Maybe you have been still or sedentary a lot today. So an option here is just to bring some movement towards the body that supports you. And coming into stillness, we're going to take a twist here. So the standing leg very much grounded. Maybe you lift the toes and spread the toes, making sure it is grounded. And have a softness in the left knee. So I haven't locked it, and particularly if you're hypermobile, there's just a micro bend there in the left knee. Taking the left hand towards the right knee and turning towards the right hand side. Encouraging the right knee to remain above the right ankle. Softening the shoulders. Maybe the right hand comes to the hip. Maybe you tuck it around the back of the body and it tucks in towards the waist. But once again, whatever feels supportive for you. And again, if you feel you need a bit more balance, maybe you take the right hand and extend it out. That helps the balance. So a few options to play with, and taking the one that best serves you in this moment. Slowly coming back to centre and releasing the right leg down. Just taking a little bit of time to work through that, and we'll come to the other side. So grounding through the right foot, and all that really means is spreading the toes, making sure the right foot the right toes are pointing forwards. And we've taken our time to massage the sole of each foot. So you may notice you just have quite a solid base, really stable base here. And then the left foot's coming to rest on the chair. And we'll come back to our tiptoe motion. Hands can come to hips, taking a moment to find stillness, maybe a point to focus on to help with the balance, and coming onto the tiptoes and taking this moment to notice how it feels on this side. Again, if there's any strain or any pain in the right knee, letting this go. Maybe it feels good to challenge the balance a little, work the right leg a little. Welcome to incorporate your breath, breathing in to come up, breathing out to come down. And if it feels useful, maybe you start to encourage the arms to work as well. Breathing in to reach up, breathing out to float back down. Finding stillness, and we're coming into our twist on this side. So the right hand is coming towards the outside of the left knee, twisting towards the left hand side. And then a few options with the hands. The left hand can come to the hip. Maybe it reaches out behind you, offering a little bit more stability in what is almost a balance. Or maybe the left hand tucks around the waist, softening the shoulders. Slowly releasing round to centre, allowing the left foot to come back down. You may want to take a little bit of a knee bend, some movement through the hips. And we'll finish with a forward fold, and we're going to come to our chair of support. You're welcome to use a wall. So today I'm going to have my feet hip distance apart. You can take your feet a little wider, maybe the feet come together, whatever feels most supportive for you. But there's a softness in the knees here, and I have length through the spine. You may like to lift the toes, spread the toes, find the stable base. And we're going to breathe in and reach up. And then breathing out, folding forwards, hands coming towards the chair and finding a restful position here. So maybe the head comes all the way to the chair and you're able to rest the head there. Maybe the head softly tucks, chin towards chest. Maybe you make a little pillow for the head with the arms on the chair. Just finding whatever works for you. Always the option to bend into the knees. So finding a quiet shape here. A shape you're able to almost rest in for a few breaths. Welcome to stay here a little longer. And when you're ready, slowly coming back up to centre, taking your time, bending into the knees and bringing the hands back to the sides of the body.